everybody, this is Peggy for Cropstop.com, and today I want to show you how I made this really awesome card. Isn't that just too cool? Using one of my new favorite tools called the Grand Calibur. Let me bring it in here. Here she is. Is she like too stinking cool? Wait till you see what all we can do with her. So we're going to be using her. She's kind of what I keep calling the star of the show. We're going to use some of the Spellbinder dies. We're going to use the scallop squares, the little ones. And then we're going to use, of course, Memento ink. I use that all the time because I want to show you, let me bring this back in, how I made that stamp using Spellbinders. So we're going to do that. So we use that ink. Then, of course, here are all the mats that come with your Spellbinders. You get a cutting mat, a base mat, an embossing mat, and then your rubber mat that you do your embossing with. So we're going to use all of those. And then this is how I store my jumbo the Grand Calibur die cuts. These are your big squares. Duh, can't you tell? And then these are the scallop squares. And these are the magnetic sheets you get. And what I've done is on the back, let me turn it over here. I wrote on here, even though I'll know, just so I know if I take all of the dies off and I'm doing a big project, I know which mat these go on. This is my Grand Scalloped squares. So there you are. So we're going to use those, and I'm going to use this. Now, how am I going to use that? Well, I guess you'll have to check back. Let me clean things up and we'll get started. Now, the first thing we need to do is to get our Grand Girl set up here. That's what I call her, is the Grand Girl. The first thing you want to do is to make sure that she's steady against your table base. This little lever down here, the white lever, you're going to push it all the way over until it locks down, like so. I mean, she is on there. I have a ceramic tile underneath there, so that might move, but she won't move, I guarantee you. The other thing we're going to do is to pull our tray out. This is your little guiding tray, and it'll click. Listen. That's all you get out of that. That'll click. That's what's going to help me guide things through there. Now, the first thing I want to do is to cut my card. Now, this is just a white piece of cardstock and I've trimmed it down just a smidgen. And what I've done, which is really a neat thing, I folded my 8.5 and 11, 8.5 by 11 cardstock in half. So in order to make a card, I'm going to put this here. And I'm just going to leave the edge so that it's not touching. That's going to be the fold of my card. And then I'm going to place those on my mat. So we are going to start with our A, which is our base. And actually, let me grab a little piece of tape because I don't want this to slide, so I'll be right back. Now what I did is I took two little pieces of removable tape and put on my die, not on the cutting part, but on the outside edge there. And then I took another little piece and put it over here. I don't know if the camera can see that far over there. Over on this edge of my cardstock so that it won't slide around. So that's my A plate. Then you want your die with your cutting part up. And then we're going to do the C plate, and it tells you right on there it's the cutting plate. So I'm going to lay that right on top. And then we're just going to feed it through there. Look at the ease that goes through. You might hear a little popping, and that's okay. I don't even have to hold on to the machine. I should, because it's moving my tile. There we go. Oh, make sure you leave yourself enough room at the back end. I didn't do it that time. Okay. Now let me bring this off. And there is my card. And I even get a nice embossed edge around it. And that's how I got my card here. Isn't that cool? Now the other thing I did is I went ahead and I used the, I think this one was just called Spots or Dots or something like that from Cuttlebug. And I used a 5x7 folder. Any 5x7 folder is best for this because, as you see, it fits in there very, very nicely. And then you just, everybody knows how to emboss, I think. Run that through and get your embossing on there. That's how I got the front part. Now, let me show you the next step. Let me move these little goodies out of our way. And see how nice that tape just comes right off of there? Oh, it did come undone because of my mat. Let me readjust this here a little bit for you so you'll be able to see. Leave myself enough room back there this time. There we go. Okay, now, here is a really neat little trick that you can do. Spellbinders has tons and tons and tons of different shapes out there you can use. And remember I told you I wanted to show you how I got this little color back here. Now, some folks will go ahead and they will tape down their little die, and they'll go ahead and ink up in there with a sponge. you know, just color it that way. But I made myself a stamp. And all I did was take some of that fun foam that you can get at any of the craft stores. Again, you want to put your blade against the green. Let me bring this back in. We'll set it up one more time. And I'm going to have my A plate, my die with the cutter up, and my C plate, and then I'm just going to run it through. I think I need a bigger work surface here. And look how great that cut. Can you see that? Isn't that just awesome? Now obviously you could just go ahead and use that as part of an embellishment on a card or a scrapbook page. Now this particular fun foam has adhesive on the back. Now I'm not going to put that adhesive on my acrylic because I wasn't sure if it would come off easily enough. So here's what I did to do the stamping. Let me clear some things off and I'll bring that part in. Now I just used my acrylic board, what do I call this? A block, not a board, a block. And I don't know if you can tell or not, but I just ran 2 pieces of adhesive on the back of there so it would stay and not slide. I'm going to use Memento ink. Now the one thing you'll have to do is to make sure you ink it up really well. And I don't like lines in it, so I just do it a lot because that kind of covers up any of those lines that you might get from your ink pad. The other important thing to use is to make sure that you use a stamp pad underneath. And we have those at Crop Stop. You'll notice mine's really small, because what I did is I bought a couple of them and I kept one big one on my stamping surface, and then I cut mine down into little pieces to take with me when I teach. Regular cardstock, stamped it up on there, and I'm going to have to stand up probably to get a good thing. And then I just pressed real hard all around it. Ta-da! Isn't that too stinking cool? So now I have a matching stamp. And you could do that with any of those shapes out there. So that's how you do that. Now let me clear this off because I have another thing I got to show you before we go. Now one of the advantages of the Grand Calibur that everybody's excited about is that it has such a wide base. Well, one of the problems that we found is that even though we say it'll do an 8.5 by 11, if you notice my 8.5 by 11 paper doesn't fit through there. So we need to remove this tray. There are 2 ways to do that. There's one way where you just pop it out with your hands. I don't have enough strength in my hands to pull it out and click it like they say you can. So I found another way to do it by watching some videos out there. So I'm going to take your gray A plate, your tan matte, and your pink embossing plate, and we're going to run that through the back, and that's going to pop out your tray. So let's get set up to do that. Now this may take you a couple of tries to do, so don't get discouraged there when you're doing it. You're going to try and put it in there as straight as you possibly can, and then you're going to roll it through. And just keep your eye on that tray as I turn the handle. It'll start bringing the white tray out. And wind her up again. You got to make sure you get it in there just at the right angle. There we go. There we are. Now let me get this out of here. And there it is. So that's how it comes out. Now I want to show you, let me get things rearranged here. I want to show you now how my 8.5 by 11 paper will fit through there. Now you'll notice that my 8.5 by 11 paper will go all the way through there and it won't have any bended ends or edges on it. So let's go ahead and cut now my square that goes behind my card. So we're going to use an A plate, our cardstock, our die. Well, that's not right, Peggy. There we go. Put that down too soon. There we are. And that goes there. And then our C plate. Now, the trick's going to be is that you're going to have to be a little more careful now when you're guiding your plates through there because you don't have that guide. And you do want to get it straight so that you don't bend your die. So let's try this. Make sure we get her going. So get her going. Here we go. And that noise is okay. And let's see how we did. And there is our perfect square to go behind our card. Just like that. Now what I did is an added little thing here is I went ahead and did a corner rounder on the sides of my card just to make it more rounded on the edge. And then I taped it to the back of there, and that's all there is to that. Now, the one thing I do want to show you is to put the tray back in. And I'm going to be real honest with you here. It is not the easiest thing to get back in. Again, I don't have the strength in my hands to shove this back in here. But the main thing you want to know is there are little grooves, one on each side, here and here. Inside your caliber are little ridges, I guess you want to call those little ridges on each side. You want to line those up. So let's do that first. We'll line them up. And if you have the strength to push that in with your hand, go right ahead, but I can't. So that's where my hammer comes in. Now, warning, warning. This is not something that Spellbinders tells you to do with a rubber mallet. I could not find anybody that showed me how to put it back in there except to tell me to push it back in with my hands. So I very carefully put this back in. If you don't feel comfortable with taking your tray out, please don't, because there's no warranty on that, you know. So I just tap a little till I get it going. And Steve was so proud of me that I thought to use a rubber mallet and not a regular hammer, you know. Now just keep tapping a little on each side to keep it even. Now that side's all the way in. There. So there's our little thing back in, and there's your little click you'll want to hear when I'm not talking. You'll hear that little click so that it's engaged when you get ready to use your tray. Now again, please be aware that this is not something that comes along with your grand caliber. This came out of my little tool chest, and it's not something that they recommend. If you have strong hands and you can push it back in there without the hammer, please do so. Again, it's plastic, so don't use a metal hammer, and don't like crank it in there really hard because it will break. I personally, off video, I take this out and leave it out because I like to use my bigger pieces of paper in there. That's just a Peggy thing. So, what I showed you tonight, there was a lot of stuff to show you. I showed you how to make a card using your big die cut, how to make a stamp, how to take your tray out so you could cut 8.5 by 11 and get your square in the back, and how to put your tray back in. Gosh, that was a lot of stuff. Well, make sure you stop over at cropstop.com and get yourself one of these grand calibers and check out all those grand dies. They are awesome. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.